Laser sights can deter threats and aid in quick target identification, enhancing your ability to protect your family, home, and country. Crimson Trace, making laser sights standard equipment. Learn more at crimsontrace.com.
Hey y'all, it's Tom Gresham's Gun Talk. Oh, look out, we're smoking.
All right, welcome back to Gun Talk. I'm Tom Gresham. Kind of hard to introduce our next guest. We've had book authors on before, and that's all good, but this is a different kind of book author. This is one who has earned your respect and your gratitude. Dave Benton, Marine veteran, trained sniper, 24 years of service, maybe more, doing a lot of interesting things. Team leader, tactical medic, special teams stuff. The book is 13 Hours, the inside account of what really happened in Benghazi, because he was there. He saved lives. Yeah, he's one of those guys. Boon, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it, and thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you for having me on.
You bet. By the way, the book, is it out yet or is it about to come out?
The book has been out for probably 2 years now.
Oh, it's a 2 year. Okay, I'm behind then. And I know that for a while you were kind of staying quiet about it. I guess, I don't know if it's the media, somebody kind of leaked out who you were and that you were there, and so you went with this. Let me ask you a question. You do all this training of people now, and we'll get to that. And it's a weird kind of question, but with all the people you've trained, and top-level people, but when you're talking about regular citizens, civilians, who either conceal carry or have guns for self-defense, what are the 1, 2, or maybe 3 things? Just give me an idea of things they don't know, or the things you see where you're going, man, you're really missing the boat here, or maybe just the lack of reality understanding that people have or they bring to this.
I think 1 would be a lack of awareness. 2 would probably be a lack or an understanding of true ballistics, because they don't perform like they do in the movies. And then 3, just a lack of understanding of 7 fundamentals of marksmanship.
Interesting. Okay, so the lack of ballistic understanding, by that do you mean that bullets are not magic and they don't make people fly against walls?
That's exactly what I mean. Absolutely. You'll see a lot of students that will come to class with a caliber that perhaps they don't need, but it starts with 4, so they think that's the answer.
Right. Well, I mean, and I've looked at it, and I know you're a student of this, and everything I've ever looked at said there's essentially no difference in stopping ability between 940 and 45. It's just going to, I like Clint Smith's old line. It says, bullets are like medicine. Sometimes it takes them a while to really start working. It's a funny way of saying it, but the reality is you're probably not going to get a stop with 1 hit, no matter what you hit them with, if it's a handgun anyway.
Yes, sir, absolutely correct.
Okay, so they don't understand that. Fundamentals of marksmanship, what are you talking about there?
7 fundamentals of marksmanship. Stand, script, side alignment, side picture, breathe control, trigger control. A lot of people don't understand that that's a secret formula. They're always looking for the magic of how do I shoot. Well, if you follow that established formula, you're going to be able to hit your target based on 3 criteria: size of the target, distance from you to the target, and then the time you have to make that shot. But if you follow the proven formula, 7 fundamentals of marksmanship, you're going to hit your target.
But everybody says, yeah, but there's got to be something because you're the man. You know the secret stuff. You're supposed to tell us this stuff, right?
Right. It's just the basics.
Yeah. No, actually, I like it. Somebody said, people don't want to follow the basics or study the basics or practice them, but really the basics are always there. Even if it's the high-end stuff, it's just the basics applied faster to more targets. But you're always applying the basics.
Absolutely correct. Yes, sir.
The other thing I was wondering about, I was wondering if you would touch on it, but if you would, my sense is that most people, even those of us who, I haven't served, haven't been in combat, haven't done any of that. I'm a student of, self-defense with guns. But I'm not sure that I, or most of us, completely understand how truly bad the truly bad guys are. Would that be a fair assessment?
I think that's a very fair assessment, and unless you've spent some time in perhaps a prison or in law enforcement, you really don't understand how evil people can really be. It's sad to say that, but it's a fact of life.
How does it change your approach to things when you start to comprehend that there are people who simply don't care about you or your life or your family? You're like a bug. It's like yeah, I stepped on, who cares?
I think personally for me, it just makes my training and my preparation more purposeful. I don't really change my mindset or how I treat people or think about people. It just makes my training a little more purposeful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was in a school one time, and one of the instructors said, look, it's just, this guy wants to kill everybody you know, because if he kills you, they all go away for you. In other words, get real about this. This is not shooting paper targets. This is the real thing here. And it's kind of that attitude adjustment. I mean, it's probably hard for you to figure out sometimes where we are, because this is part of who you are. You've been there with the bad guys. You've done the things in various parts of the world. And those of us who simply go to the mall and back, it's really hard to incorporate that real world thinking of there are people who not only want to kill you, they want to cut your head off and cut the heads off your children, videotape it, and put it on the internet.
Yes, sir, absolutely. I think you see that a lot, too, on the nightly news, and you'll have an incident that'll happen in a good neighborhood, and they'll interview someone, and they always say, well, this is such a good neighborhood, I didn't think that this can happen here. That's kind of the attitude people have.
Well, it's the same attitude I hear from people who say, well, I don't carry all the time, but if I'm going into a bad part of town, I'll carry there. I'm going, wow, that's a weird way of thinking about things.
Very weird way to look at it. First of all, don't go to the bad point of the area. And second of all, you should always be prepared when you get in your car, put your seatbelt on. So if you're going to make that conscious decision to carry a weapon for personal defense, it needs to be all the time.
How much should the average concealed carry person, who this is not their job or anything else, how much should that person be practicing? I mean, how often should you go out and shoot? Because I know people who go get their carry permit and then they might shoot once or twice a year.
That's definitely not enough. My answer would be as often as they possibly can. The reality is, though, not everyone has the time or manages the time or can afford it. So if you could take even 50 rounds a month and stay active, that will do you much better than maybe taking one course annually and shooting 500 rounds annually.
One of the ways I've put it in the past is your gun should feel as comfortable to you in your hand as the stick shift in your car. You shouldn't have to look at anything to make it work.
Absolutely. Your manipulation should be habitual. Absolutely.
So what's Boon doing these days? I mean, you've got this incredible background in military and protective services and special teams and everything else. Tell them what you're up to now and how they might take advantage of that.
Well, for the last year, I've been training with Tonto with Battle Line Tactical, and that's gone very well. So now this year, we've partnered up with shootingclasses.com. And I'm also running Threat Management Solutions in February, which is me training on my own independently.
Okay. So shootingclasses.com, is that the best place for people to go and find you on the web?
Yes, sir, it is. Shootingclasses.com is actually a portal for instructors. Later on, it will have a component for students where students can go and find classes and instructors in their area that may fit them. But right now, it's focused on the instructor in streamlining the process for the instructor, so the administrative part is taken care of and automated, and the instructor has more time to actually teach.
Perfect. Allows you to do the thing that you want to be doing in the first place.
Yes, sir, instead of all the paperwork, which has to be done.
Yeah, I know. It's got to be done, but nobody likes it, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Boon, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us. I want to recommend the book, 13 Hours, the the inside account of what really happened in Benghazi. I mean, I know you were there. It was amazing. There's no need for us to beat that up. I think we know that story. But again, thank you so much, and please keep passing along that knowledge. We all need it out here.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. I love the show.
All right, you take care. 866-TALK-GUN. How much do you practice? How often do you go to the range? How much do you dry fire, manipulate your gun, do things? Once a year? 500 rounds a year? Well, I'm just curious. And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just kind of curious, trying to get a sense of it out there. Also, when we come back, we're going to be talking about, new guns. It's as simple as that. We got them coming out. 866-TALK-GUN.
Pure accuracy. That's what a great rifle is all about. That's the Mossberg MVP Precision Rifle. The MVP Precision has it all. A bolt action that accepts AR-style magazines, sub-MOA accuracy, aluminum chassis system with slim profile handguard, Mossberg's lightning bolt action trigger system, chambered for the 6.5 Creedmoor, 224 Valkyrie, 308 and 223. Available in 24 and 26-inch threaded barrels. For your long-range precision needs, it's the MVP Precision. Mossberg.com. That's Mossberg.com.
Attacks happen every day. How will you react? See real people put into real-life criminal attack situations on First Person Defender. Discover what works and what doesn't. Kidnapping, ATM robbery, home invasion, and other attacks. Learn how to save your life and the lives of your family. Get the entire first season on DVD at shopguntalk.com. Get prepared. Shopguntalk.com.
Tired of searching the web for the best deals on guns, ammunition, and gear? Download the free Gun Dealio app today for deals and discounts right at your fingertips. Handguns, rifles, shotguns, ammo, optics, lasers, gun safes, targets, gun cleaners, grips, slings, and much, much more. Save money on products you want from the companies you love. New deals, discounts, and rebates added daily. Gun Dealio, available for free in the App Store and Google Play.
Perhaps more than any other landscape, wetlands embody the life-giving abundance that nature has to offer. And perhaps more than any other organization, Ducks Unlimited is working to ensure that our continent's wetlands not only survive, but thrive for generations well beyond this one. The time is now to band together. The time is now to rescue our wetlands.
Let's see, in Virginia, Governor Ralph Northam has announced a comprehensive package of legislation he claims will prevent gun violence and improve the safety of Virginia's citizens and communities. Let's see. Universal background checks, that's code for no private gun sales. That's all that is. For those who are still not clear, we do have background checks in the U.S., but the universal background check is the end of private sales. You'd have to go get the approval of the government before you could sell a gun or even give a gun to someone. Extreme risk protective order, that's what's known as the red flag laws. That's the gun confiscation order, where somebody can call the authorities and say, this guy I think is a danger to himself, and they come and take your guns away without due process. Also, he wants to go back to gun rationing in Virginia. That was done away with, their one handgun a month law. And there's more there, but we're going to be seeing this in a lot of states. We've had the Democrats take over the control of the legislatures in a number of states, and they have a wish list that is being orchestrated and funded by Bloomberg. And they're putting these in. Here's the deal. Let me just be really, really blunt about this. If you're not a member of your state gun rights organization, shame on you. Shame on you. Because that's where the action is. If you call here and I ask you, what is your state gun rights organization, and you don't know the name of it, shame on you. You not only need to know the name of it, you need to belong. You need to be a part of it. You need to be in the fight. Otherwise, the metaphor I use is you're sitting in the wagon, and we're having to pull you along. Get out of the wagon and start helping. Really simple. Let's talk to George. He's in New York. We're talking about the ballistic fingerprinting law that New York did away with, and now Maryland's doing away with. It's a total failure, cost millions. Let's see, on line 2. George, how are you, sir?
Pretty good. Yeah, Maryland's had it, or I guess they quit funding it. Maybe that was it several years ago. But I was involved in New York State, and luckily through some legislators and some other people who won't be mentioned, I was able to keep track of the numbers in New York State. And because New York State is so much bigger, there was we had a lot more guns. We ended up with 366,828 guns in the database. And so Maryland, when they had their report several years ago, they actually copied, because I had a section about this on my web page, they actually copied a lot from my web page's justification, because they said New York has such a big database. Let's look at what happened with them. And at that point, we had no hits or anything like that. So I want to mention a couple of things. Number one, that bill was passed by a Republican, George Pataki. So he also passed the assault weapons ban. So it doesn't matter what letters in front of or past your name. If you're anti-gun, you're still anti-gun. And the other point is,
look at what Marco Rubio is doing right now, introducing this red flag law into Congress, which is a gun confiscation bill.
Right. And the other thing, as far as the money, I can talk about New York State some. Now, I knew basically how many people were working on the program, and so they spent up to $45 million, supposedly. It's probably a little less than that, but up to that amount. But the thing that really irritated me more than the money, because it's New York State and who cares how much money they spend other than the taxpayers, was they wasted basically an estimated 227,000 man-hours that the lab technicians and the police could have been actually spending on real crime.
Let me fill in here, because what we're talking about is this program of ballistic fingerprinting, where they basically have a record of every handgun sold with a fired cartridge case and cataloging them and creating the database. And as you say, spending hundreds of thousands of man hours that could have been spent on actually something productive for the citizens of the state.
Right. And they eventually did get one hit, sort of. And I'll say sort of because the person that the gun traced back to was already in trouble. His gun had already been confiscated, and it took him so long to match it up. The statute of limitations had run out on the negligent discharge or whatever they're going to find him. So it would have been, total waste of time.
Wow.
So
yep, exactly.
And it's New York, so there's a legislator. Every year puts in another bill to bring back COBUS and include rifles and shotguns. So that's how stupid some of the people are up here.
Exactly. I appreciate George. Thank you for that input. That is good info. He's quite the researcher and been following this a lot there. Maryland, let's see, New Jersey bans magazines that hold more than 10 rounds, including original equipment magazines. So if you bought your gun 25 years ago and it came with a 15-round magazine, it's illegal. What kind of compliance are they getting? Well, so far, it is possibly the biggest case of civil disobedience we've ever seen, because they've had exactly 0 magazines turned in. 0 out of, who knows, millions of magazines in the state. Same thing happened in Boulder, Colorado, where they banned so-called assault weapons. Supposed to turn them in. Let's see, nobody did. It's amazing. And of course, what's interesting there is Boulder being the capital, if you will, of tolerance for all groups. Well, except for gun owners, of course. It's okay to hate gun owners. That's a freebie. You can't discriminate against anybody else, but you can certainly discriminate against gun owners. Amazing stuff. Let's see. Levi's in Idaho, line 1. How you doing, Levi? What's up?
Pretty good. So I've been watching a lot of first-person defender, learning different stuff. And I had an idea that might help maybe other schools get off the fence about letting their teachers carry guns. I would like to see first-person defender get real teachers, run real scenarios, and show what these schools have done with their teachers with their training and how they can protect other children with a real gun and not a hockey
like
puck.
the idea. We're talking about First-Person Defender is our online series where we take people and put them into real-life scenarios. They're using simunitions guns, and they're fully protected. Of course, the FASTER program in Ohio and Colorado and now in maybe other states puts real teachers into real training. It's a 3 to 5 day training course. They do not allow us to come shoot video there because we thought that would be a great idea. And they don't generally tell the world which teachers have been through the training, which teachers are carrying. But that doesn't mean, I'm just playing off your idea here, that doesn't mean we couldn't identify a few of them. We have to figure out how to do it because we don't want to give away the identities. And we always introduce these folks and tell people who they are, a little bit about their background when they come on the show. So we would have to take a little bit different approach, but that's possible. I think we can do that. And to your point, Levi, I think it's pretty smart to say, look, these are real-world teachers, and they can talk about what they thought before they went through the training and what they knew when they came out of the training and how they feel differently now. I think it's a strong concept, and I'm going to take it back to the team and throw it out there and see what we can do. It'd be a little bit of a logistical challenge, but I think it's worthwhile. I really do. It just a lot of people have these weird ideas about teachers and guns. Oh, by the way, the commission it was formed to look into the Parkland shooting. They came back with I think it's 450-something page report. One of the recommendations is to arm teachers. It has driven the gun ban people crazy. The politicians in Florida have lost their minds. How could you do this? Well, because they actually looked at it and said, you know what? The only people who are really going to be effective are the ones who are in the room. You know what? If you have to call somebody on a phone and have them come, they're not a first responder. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. If you're not there, you're not a first responder. Only the people who are there on the property are. Real world. 866-TALK-GUN.
A girl can't go wrong with something in basic black, like an AR-15.
Some things never go out of style, like Tom Gresham's Gun Talk.
All right, back with you here. I was talking before about the idea that, and I know it bothers people when you say this. I get that, okay? The idea that the police are not really first responders, because everybody takes pride in that. I get it. But and I say that not to denigrate police officers or fire, paramedics, any of that, but only to say that we who are on the scene, if you're in the middle of it, you're the first responder. If you got to call them on the phone, they're not the first responder. The people who are there need to respond. They need to respond effectively. It's one of the things we talk about is, do you have the training? Do you have the will? Not just with firearms. Do you have a modicum of medical training? Can you take one of those stop the bleed classes? Know how to use a tourniquet? You can save a life with that. Doesn't have to be at a shooting. Could be at a traffic accident. Somebody's bleeding like crazy. It's just one of those things that you have to think about it in depth. You have to go deeper than just the shallow us versus them or bumper stickers or slogans or that kind of a thing. You have to get more serious about the whole thing. What's everybody's role in this is kind of one of the questions that needs to come up. And one of the guys who's thought about this a good bit through the years and just wrote a provocative piece on the policeone.com website is Mike Wood. Mike is a lieutenant colonel, retired, Mike Wood, son of a 30-year California highway patrolman, is the author of the Newhall shooting, a tactical analysis. A lot of background here, Air Force Academy, combat pilot. It joins us right now. Mike Wood, how are you, sir?
Good, sir. Thank you very much for having me on today.
You bet. I was making the point before you came on that just from a standpoint of getting your mind set up right, not as a way of trying to put people into a second-class position, but getting your mind right of thinking of yourself as the first responder as opposed to somebody you call on a phone and then they drive over and bring a medical kit or bring a gun to try to take care of the situation. And I realize that probably there may be some police officers who take offense to that. I would assume. What do you think?
Well, that's very possible. I think most officers are realistic enough to know that they can't always be there to protect the public that they serve. And they would like to see the public able to take care of themselves in that interim before they show up to help.
Well, one of the things that you've been writing about in this most recent piece is the idea that we are in second or third generation active shooter response. It used to be Columbine, the police would all gang up by the door and wait for orders and wait for everybody to show up and wait for the armored car to show up. Meanwhile, they're hearing gunshots in there and kids are dying. Now, the idea is, when you get there, go. Just get in there and do something about it. Even though, and I would argue, I think you would agree, that's a more dangerous course of action for the officer, isn't it?
It certainly is. There's a greater risk for a solo officer going in to take care of a situation like that, but that's also part of the job for them. That's the risk they've signed on for when they take those positions. And we also know that the statistics show that just if we put any kind of pressure at all on somebody that's committing a rapid mass murder like this, that they typically will either commit suicide or surrender. And because they're not expecting someone to fight them back. That's why they go to these gun-free zones. That's why they attack these soft targets, because they know that they're not going to get any resistance. So the minute we put any kind of resistance on them at all, even if it's only from a single officer, then we find out that we're able to terminate the threat very, very quickly that way.
Well, that would also apply to someone who is actually on site before the officer get there, applying, as you say, putting pressure on them, resisting.
It certainly would. And in fact, if we look at the statistics there's a significant number of incidents where armed citizens have been able to terminate the threat prior to law enforcement showing up. And in fact, the Federal Bureau of Investigation just recently published a report that indicates the significant role that armed citizens play in terminating some of these active shooter threats.
Absolutely. Tell you what, we've got some things to talk about that are serious. I want to take a quick break here so we have time on the backside. When we come back, we're talking with Mike Wood. We want to talk about, we're probably at the point where it's time for a new paradigm for police response to active shooter and how that meshes with the idea that there are millions of us now carrying guns for personal protection, but we don't have badges. 866-TALK-GUN. Be right back.
Brownells has gone retro. Check out Brownells' new line of retro AR-15 and AR-style 308 rifles at brownells.com/retro. Whether you're looking for Eugene Stoner's original 308 design, the famous M16A1, Air Force 601, or the XM177 carbine, Brownells has the classic, new production, old-school rifle of your dreams. Own the firearm you used in basic training, carried in service, or that Grandpa always talks about. See more at brownells.com/retro.
Hi, this is Tom Gresham from Gun Talk. America is losing critical wildlife habitat at a rate of 1 football field every hour. It's happening on the Louisiana coast, but it's critical to all sportsmen and conservationists. These precious wetlands provide winter habitat for more than 10 million ducks and geese annually, waterfowl that migrate north through dozens of states. Don't shrug it off. Get involved. You can help. Visit vanishingparadise.org.
Hey, welcome back. We're talking with Mike Wood. He's the author of an intriguing piece at policeone.com. The title of it is The Next Generation of Active Shooter Response. The subhead is The Police Can Be Part of the Solution Even If They Aren't Part of the Action. Mike, what's the idea behind this?
Well, Tom, as you know, we've gone through several evolutions of active shooter response in law enforcement, starting with the Texas Tower incident back in the mid-1960s, where we kind of had the surround and call-out was the response to something like that, where we waited for SWAT to show up. And then after Columbine in 99, we realized that we needed to get police officers into these locations as quickly as possible to confront the threat and shut them down. And that's a good place for us right now, and I think that particular tactic saves a lot of lives. But my thought is that we need to now go one more evolution, and we need to start looking at left-of-bang solutions where we get the public more prepared to deal with these threats in that interim while we're waiting for the police to show up, because the greatest amount of killing is happening before our police officers get on scene. Once they get on scene, they're going to do everything possible to try to stop the threat and try to save lives, but there's always that several-minute worth of response time that we have to endure before the police show up. And so what I would really like to see is law enforcement embrace this idea that they have a responsibility to take a more active role in preparing the public to fend for themselves during that interim while we're waiting for the police to show up.
The Left of Bang reference is the title of a book with the same title, Left of Bang. Basically, it's what happens before the first shot is fired. What you're saying is the police need to get involved in, if you will, active shooter response, but do it before the active shooter shows up, which is talking to people and working with people and training teams, whether it's at a church or a school or wherever else, so that the people who are there can respond. It really is the time from the first shot to when the first response happens is when people are dying. Because once the police show up, generally speaking, the killing stops, generally. So if you could say take that 5-minute response and make it a 30-second response, you save a ton of lives.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned in your previous segment the FASTER program, and it's things like that I would like to see law enforcement take that bold step of taking more of an embrace of programs like that, where they actively host that kind of training and encourage it in their communities. We'd like to see them take an active role in forming church security teams, embrace things like the school marshal and the armed teacher programs, provide more training and emergency casualty care. So just take a more aggressive stance and a more aggressive approach to training the public so that they have some skills and they have some capabilities to withstand that attack and repel it while they're waiting for armed professionals to arrive.
I'm also thinking a logical outgrowth of that, or result of that, would be that the police would understand they're likely to encounter good guys with guns when they go into the situation. And that's one of the things that really worries me currently, is that when the police come in, they've got a report of a shooting, and when they come in, they see somebody with a gun, they're quite likely to shoot that person just because he or she is holding a gun. But if they're doing training with people and working with them and understanding that the good guys are liable to be there with guns, that could result in less, jump to conclusions. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. It does. Obviously those are very high-stress moments where they're very dynamic situations and difficult decisions have to be made very, very quickly. But if a police officer knows, for example, that he's responding to a school that has an armed teacher program, then that knowledge going into it is going to make him consider that when he's making his friend or foe identifications. He's going to perhaps take that extra moment to ask that question, is this an armed teacher I'm looking at, or is this a killer? Mm-hmm. And, of course, the important part of that as well is that those types of training programs teach the members of our public, a teacher in this example, how to avoid looking like a bad guy, because there's an equal share of responsibility here. The police have a responsibility to make a good target identification, and equally, the armed citizen has a responsibility. Their part of the equation is to make sure that they're acting in a manner and a protocol that's consistent with good tactics, and that they know what to expect when the police arrive, and they know how to respond when the police arrive so that they aren't mistaken for a bad guy.
Right. Is there anything that comes to mind that could be done in terms of helping to train police officers that are just going into a situation that not everyone with a gun is a bad guy?
Yes, in fact, I've been writing about that lately on Police One, and we've been having a pretty spirited discussion about that within the community there. And I think the thing to realize about that is that, the police and armed citizens are natural allies. But unfortunately, we've had a couple incidents of late that have highlighted the fact that, unfortunately, people make bad decisions under stress sometimes. And so I think one of the things that we can really do that would help is increase opportunities for the public and their police to spend time around each other. Because, a police officer typically day in and day out doesn't spend much time around lawfully armed citizens. The people that he's seeing with guns are usually other police officers or criminals. Mm-hmm. And so increasing the opportunities for joint training and for just opportunities for them to work around each other would be very helpful in the two communities kind of coming to an understanding of how they need to behave around each other.
Recently, somebody threw out an idea that at first I rejected, and then once I thought about it, I thought, well, actually, I think that makes some sense, and that is if you get into an individual, if you get into a self-defense shooting somewhere or a shooting of any sort, and the police are responding, we used to say, well, stay there, don't leave the scene, but that was kind of pre-cell phones. And the idea was thrown out that maybe you ought to leave the area, get away from the scene, maybe it's 100 yards away, whatever, call 911, stay on the phone with them, identify yourself, and when the police show up, say, look, I'm around the corner over here, and I want to come in, but I don't want to get shot. Is there some merit to that?
There is. Obviously, those types of decisions are largely dependent on the circumstances that exist for your particular situation. There may be times when the scene is not safe for you to remain behind, and so it is a better idea for you to leave that scene and go somewhere where you are safe to be able to make the report. Other times, it may be more beneficial for you to stay on scene because we do have that kind of culture, if not principle in the law, that flight equals guilt. And so that's something that we have to protect against as well. So obviously the armed citizen in that case is really going to have to make a judgment call based on the circumstances he's dealing with. And it's hard to say what's right or what's wrong ahead of time, but that should certainly be an option for him if he feels that the circumstances warrant it.
And, as we were talking about a lot with ballistics, and then generally one shot doesn't stop a guy. It's not like in the movies. If you shoot an attacker, you shoot somebody who's shooting other people, he may be down on the ground flipping and flopping around, and you may not want to be leaving him there where he could maybe harm other people. Once you're committed, you're kind of committed.
It's true. That's true. You've taken actions to stop a threat, but it's very difficult sometimes to tell whether or not that threat is terminated. And we obviously don't want to encourage people to go and approach a suspect that's downed. That's something that's better left to a team of persons. That's better left to a team of professionally trained officers that have training and equipment and backup and communications capabilities that the armed citizen doesn't have. So
absolutely. Keep your distance. Don't go up to them. Don't try to kick the gun away. Do any of that stuff. You're not trained for it. You don't have handcuffs. You don't have communications and all the rest of it. Mike Wood, look, we're out of time again. I hate it, but I always enjoy it when we get a chance to talk. Best place for people to catch you is on Police One?
Yes, Police One, and then also I'm working a lot over at revolverguy.com. So for the wheel gun fans out there, they can find some stuff out there. It's always the year of Revolver. It's Revolver Guy.
Revolver Guy. All right, that'll work. Mike Wood, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, 866-TALK-GUN. As you think through these scenarios, do you ever think about maybe I would leave the scene afterwards? Would you stay? What would you do? I don't know. It's a complicated subject, as he says, but there it is. It's something we have to talk about. 866-TALK-GUN. Hey, where do you want to spot that burglar? When he's casing your home or after he's in? Ask John, whose Blink camera alerted him of burglars trying to break in while he and his family were home. Or Shannon. Her Blink camera caught a thief stealing packages. Both times, Blink video clips were sent to the police. That's kind of cool. to help convict the crooks. Blink motion-activated indoor and outdoor cameras are wire-free, set up in minutes, and run on 2 AA batteries that last up to 2 years. And if you're traveling, Blink's live feed option lets you monitor your home and check in on pets from anywhere using the Blink smartphone app. No contracts, no subscriptions, totally affordable, and Blink works with Alexa. Blink camera systems make great gifts, and they're a brilliant way to monitor your package deliveries. Go to blinkprotect.com/guntalk. blinkprotect.com/guntalk. Blink is an Amazon company. All right, I got a quote for you. It kind of just to start the thinking process of all people, it comes from Winston Churchill. You will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. What's that mean? Well, to me, here's what it means. Keep your focus. Figure out what it is you want to go after. I'm watching people, particularly on the internet, and they want to get into arguments with people who are non-gun owners, Democrats, liberals, whatever group you want. And they say, well, what am I supposed to do? I mean, if somebody calls you a name, what are you going to do? You ignore them. That's what you do. Figure out what your goal is. Come up with a plan of action for your goal on the Second Amendment activism. And number 3 is ignore the distractions. The quote is, you will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. There are always going to be fools and foolish people on the internet. You cannot correct them. You cannot fix them. You cannot embarrass them. Don't get into an argument with them. Let it go. Figure out something that's actually productive instead of something that makes you feel better. Oh, I got the best of him. Really? Who cares? Seriously, who cares? Get involved in your state gun rights organization. Start a program to educate the people in your neighborhood about safe gun storage, about security for the neighborhood, maybe neighborhood watch, maybe doing bug-out bags. A friend of mine just sent me an email that he's helping train people in their neighborhood about bug-out bags and security and medical kits and all the rest of it. Pick out something that's actually productive. In the process, throw this thought out for you. In the process, what happens? People who maybe are not gun people meet you, see that you're serious, see that you're helpful, see that you're kind, see that you're polite, and they come away with it, well, you know, those gun people really aren't the crazies I've been told they are. And John, or Rebecca, they're just nice people, and I learned a lot from them. You will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. Ignore the people who are trying to distract you. Set up your goal and get serious about it. I mean, we have never been under attack like we're going to be under attack right now. We've got Bloomberg billions out there. We have the Democrats taking over in a number of state houses, and they immediately put into the hopper bills that are basically the wish list of the gun ban lobby, and a lot of them are going to pass, unfortunately. So we got to get serious. We have to ignore all this stuff. Don't get caught up in the hoorah, the back and forth, and the name call and everything else. Not only is it not effective, it doesn't show you in a good light. Let's be the leaders. Let's be the productive ones. Hey, when we come back, we're going to give you an update of what's going on the legislative front and in the courts for gun rights.